Hello, beer tubers. Happy New Year. Although New Year is over now. I'm getting this video out a bit late. I wanted to shoot this so I could air it New Year's Eve, but life's just been really busy over the holidays with family and all. So you're getting it now, early in January. This is the top 10 best beers the Master of Hoppets had in 24, I had, that I featured on the channel. That's usually how this spiel goes. We're gonna get some beer in the glass, some super fresh hop food. Because if you know something about me and the channel is how much I adore West Coast IPAs. And Henrik from Omnipollo was kind enough to send me some cans of this super fresh. So that's optimal to sit and sip on while we go through these top beers and other things. Because as the last couple of years, I also want to go through some runner-up beers, some breweries I want to mention, and a little like thought about the year. Wow, this smells great. I've already reviewed a can of this, so it's gone. This is the US version of this is one of my favorite West Coast IPAs. But here's to the great start of 25 and a fantastic past 24. Hope you guys had a fantastic 24, and thanks a ton for following along the journey still. Here over 15 years later now. 15 years we've been doing the Master of Hoppets. It's crazy. So cheers. Cheers to you guys. 24 was fantastic. Crazy year for me, especially as a father, but also career-wise. Got to do a lot of cool shit and release a lot of cool shit. And got to really show what I can do professionally in brewing. And it's been really, really fun. And it's... I think next year will be even crazier, 25, because the gates have just opened with trying the things we've done and the successes and whatnot with the different beers. That it's just, I think it's going to be even madder next year. I mean, we're already lining up some really fucking cool collabs. So you're going to have to wait for more about that in the future. I can't wait for that to happen. But that whole year here, this whole year, it's just been insane. Got to premiere my beer and share it with so many brewing professionals that I look up to, which has been insane. And people have really enjoyed what I've made. So I've been really thankful for that and thankful for getting the chance to do this at Bad Seed. That Frederick allows me to do a lot of things that are really expensive. The channel is maybe a bit more lackluster because it's been mainly just like lots of beer reviews and the occasional, maybe did I do 2 on the road videos or some shit like that. Mostly like it's been blind stuff. It's mostly been stuff here because I've not been able to do the same traveling, shooting, all that as I did in the past because I have kids now. So a lot of the beer content creation happens in my newly acquired room in the house for doing content for beer. Because that's kind of where I can get to do stuff. But it's not going to be this like that permanently. It's like when the kids are this little. I mean, this year in 25, the Japan trip, for example, is finally going to happen. We're going to do some really cool content there. Hopefully I can make some contacts at MBCC, some of the Japanese breweries. And the main reason why I get to do all this and work with this stuff I'm really passionate about and do this whole journey now with Bad Seed and everything is mainly because of this. I don't have the biggest YouTube channel in the world. I do not have the biggest YouTube channel in the world. But the reason for what I've been doing and getting to work with a product I'm really, really, really passionate about has been through making this channel. So I'm really thankful for making this channel, and it's something that's always going to be a big part of me. I don't think I would ever get rid of entirely. I don't know if at one point the stream of content will just be super low or how things, turn out in life. You can never predict life. But it's a big part of me, and it's a big part of the reason why I'm in the beer industry and I've gotten to do the things I've gotten to do. So I'm really, really thankful for that and thankful for you guys, because if people don't watch, you usually don't get to do some of the things I've done. So it's also due to you guys. So I just want to say thanks a lot. So without the sentimental stuff or all the sentimental stuff here out of the way, and I'm drinking this a little bit fast actually, because it's crushable, we're going to go into the top stuff. Again, 24, amazing. 25, I think it's going to be even better. We have the top list, but I'm not going to get to that first. First, you guys are going to hear about some beers, some notable mentions, and some breweries I want to mention. Some of the breweries that I kind of also want to give a shout out are not on the shout out brewery list because they're in the kind of runner up list of beers. I've done this in the past. So, fruit breweries, a few breweries here. Santa Areas from California. I want to give them a mention. It's kind of a rediscovery for me, how great their beers were. Through Beer Dome, a lot of the breweries here on this list has actually been through Beer Dome. But they just make amazing, really highly drinkable wild beers. And I think it's some of the best in the States. It's truly, truly awesome stuff. I've got quite a lot of fun stuff to try from them. It's not something we see too often in Europe, but once in a while stuff drops, and they're really nice. I have a very big collection at the moment of wild beers, both lambic, wild ales, and whatnot. It's what I have most of in the cellar. I've gotten rid of, I still have stouts and whatnot, but I try in the cellar now mostly to focus on having, if it's something that can age, it's the wild stuff. I don't like to age too much of all the stouts and stuff like that anymore. I don't think necessarily they can handle that much age, but I do have some fun videos to do next year coming up with some fun vintage bottles from the cellar. Then another brewery I want to mention, Barrique Brewing and Blending, which is in Tennessee, Nashville. Amazing brewery. One of them that was one of these American breweries that was brand new to me. Then it got distributed in Europe, and then all their beers just like awesome. High drinkability, high complexity, loads of different lagers, loads of different wild beers, and they've just been awesome. It was a big surprise to me. That was a total new brewery for me, and I've enjoyed every single beer I've had. There's not been a single one I've disliked. And I've one beer left from them to try, which is called Rhines, which is a wild ale with watermelon rinds of everything. Watermelon rinds. Then we got a couple lager producers up in Portland. And it's been the first time I've tried one of them, which is Living House. I was really surprised about their quality of lagers. I know they do a lot of other stuff too. They've done some West Coast IPAs and whatnot. But what they've really shown at has been lagers. And it's what we've been able to get in Europe. Sporadic, but it's been there, which has been amazing. Wayfinder is the same. I've tried some Wayfinder in the past, but not as much as this year. And their quality is fucking insane. Their Czech Dark Lager rivals the best of the Czech Republic. And I went to the Czech Republic for the first time this year, doing a collab with Vinohradsky Pivovar. I think I'll do a video about that as well at some point. Not talk too much about it here, but that Wayfinder beer rivaled a lot of the stuff that I tried in the Czech Republic. That was just insanely good. Then we have Alder, outside of Milan in Italy. Got to know this brewery because of a couple kind Italians. My subscriber Leonardo, who has sent some, and then Bad Seed's previous distributor of beer in Italy, Livio. Both of these guys are really cool dudes. I met both of them. They've both been to Denmark. They've been to the brewery. Livio even worked as an intern, and they shared Alder with me. And I think it's some of my favorite clean beer in Europe right now, in a broad mix of styles. What they do really well is crispy beers, West Coast IPAs and lagers. You know, it's a very new brewery for a lot of people. It's something to watch. Like, they fucking slay like everything they've touched I've had so far, which is awesome. They're very similar to what we do at Bad Seed. Focus on a lot of styles that might not be the most popular. And they, of course, also make hazies like we do. But I see connotations to our brewery there. And the inspirations they have are a lot of these like modern West Coast beers and stuff like that. So it's a brewery that I really was surprised trying because the quality was really good. I like their hazies as well, but I've really been into the West Coast and the crispy boys. Then another brewery I want to mention in Germany, Sudden Death. It's a brewery I never drank too much of until this year. And quite a few of the beers I had this year from them have been fucking banging. And I actually think some of the hazies I had at Aarhus Together, which was Stepping Stone's Beer Festival. It's a Danish brewery, Stepping Stone. They were rivaling American stuff. Like some of those crazy dry hop triple and even quadruple IPAs I had sips of. So they're like, wow, maybe it's too crazy for me. But that small sample was fucking intensely saturated, hoppy, and bright and awesome. I think they're making some killer stuff down there. And I love that they do so many different things. They have like a big focus on super fruity stuff and hazies. But they also do like, I think they just released like a double dry hop red IPA. yeah, I think it was a red IPA or red ale. They've done a double dry hopped English IPA, whereas English hops double dry hop. I mean, they've done and funny things like they also did the Weizenbock that they dry hopped, like a Hopfenweizen. And they also do like lagers and stuff like that. Their wet hop lager they put out this year was fucking dope. A great brewery down in Lübeck in Germany. Then a lambic producer that was fairly new to me, which is Beurenhof in Belgium. I think it's in Beersel, which is where the Driefontein restaurant is as well. The family behind it used to, they come from a lineage of lambic producing. The most notable, or a very notable, not the most notable, a very notable lambic producer that a lot of people might have heard of, Eilenbosch. It's the family that, hails from the Eilenbosch brewery that has started up Beurenhof. And they have some similar artwork and things like that. There's a lot of throwbacks to the old days. And I tried some blends from them that I got from Beer Dome, which I really liked. And then they were kind enough to actually contact me and send me a care package with some stuff I also really liked. And I still have a couple of different blends from them in the cellar that's been really good. It's a lambic producer that's fairly new, but it will be really fun to follow and something that's really accessible as well. And finally, Pulpit Rock. I got to try a good amount of Pulpit Rock beers this year, mainly at MBCC, but I've tried their beers only at MBCC otherwise in the past. I did one review of a bottle of Blomst, which was really good. And it's a cool brewery. They're in Decorah, Iowa. I have a lot of heritage with Decorah, Iowa, because part of my family moved to Iowa when the big migration happened. And we've had contact with the American family ever since. And I have a distant aunt that lives in Decorah that helped me mule toppling beer at one point. So like there is that connotation. And Rob from the brewery used to watch Massive Hoppets back in the day. So we've had a couple of chats and we've hung out at ABCC a lot, which has been really, really fun and geeking out and chatting. We did a really fun interview at ABCC 3 years ago now, where we tried Akavit and we tried Gammeldansk, and it was really, really fun. Quite a different interview that was, but that was awesome. Fantastic guys, and they make awesome beers. Some of the craziest pastry stouts around. So that was the breweries, and we're already almost 20 minutes in. So let's get started with the beers. So the runner-up beers, all these beers on this list, they needed to get at least a 95 to be on the top 10. And these are beers that did not get a 95 that I want to mention, or around that territory that deserves to be mentioned on the list. So here we go. Runner-up number 1. Birrificio Italiano and Omnipollo's Tipo Pasta. Henok was kind enough to send me this. That was fucking amazing. He sent me 2 bottles even. Such a fun, gimmicky, yet also brewery scientific and technical beer. Like looking at how you could produce a beer with pasta and mozzarella the right way. Brew a Pilsner that was inspired by Italian traditions, but brewed with Italian ingredients. But not just dunking mozzarella balls and pasta into the kettle, but doing a cereal decoction, or a cereal mash with pasta to try and use in their regular Pilsner regiment, and also how to work with using whey from mozzarella for pH adjustment instead of using just mozzarella balls. Like, hilarious. But what the end result was a fantastic, really hoppy Pils that rivaled Tipo Pils, I think. I really hope that beer is not going to be a one-off, because it was fabulous. I really hope they're going to brew that again down at the Birrificio Italiano. Next beer is a beer that blew my mind of how good it was. It was a run down memory lane. Duvel. Duvel was just such a surprising beer to drink again. I loved it. Maybe a bit too strong for what I prefer these days, but it was still just a great beer. It was like Belgian meets lager traditions almost. It was fantastic. Next one is also a classic, a modern classic, Allagash White. That beer is banging. I really want to try that dead fresh, like a really, really fresh can of that. This was imported to Europe, so it's not the freshest can, but I love to revisit that like stonkingly fresh, because I have a feeling that would beat a lot of European wit beers. And I've had an inkling in getting it back into wit beers again. It's a style I actually kind of like a lot. Then this one is from Strahov in the Czech Republic, a small brew hub near I can't remember the name of the monastery, but there's this, I think it's called Saint Norbert, but the monastery is located on the hill of Prague near Prague Castle, I believe, as well. I've been to Prague once, and I did this tour with Vinohradsky. It was the last stop of the tour, and it was some of the best lagers on the tour. Also, the beers we had from the tank, the hazy was good, and like the beers was just really nice. And you go into this like monastery setting in the courtyard, and then they have the brew pub in the side serving traditional food, and the beers are just fucking great. And the beer on the list is their Norbert Special Dark Beer, and that is probably the best Czech dark lager I've had. That beat the Wayfinder one, and it also beat Hostomichi, which was my previous favorite. That was just awesome. It was so super hoppy and quite bitter. So that's also a big part of it, because usually I'm not too big fan of the dark Czech lagers, the traditional kind that are more sweet. But that beer was amazing. The next one is also a classic, Golden Carolus Cuvée Van der Kaiser Imperial Dark. And I'm also going to throw in their Christmas Ale, because I did that in the blind tasting, which was easy the best of the Belgian Christmas beers I did in that tasting. Those two beers are phenomenal Belgian strong dark ale. They're world class, and they're how that style needs to be brewed. Now, what scares me a bit, that after all this has happened and I've revisited this beer, Golden Carolus, aka Hiranka, has been bought by Delirium. So who knows what's going to happen down the line with that. Then the next one is the beer in the glass, Hop Fu. Or actually a variant of it, New Zealand Hop Fu. World class, West Coast IPA, all New Zealand hop. It's a bucket list beer for me for a long time. I wanted to try it. I was really close to putting it on the top 10 list, but I moved it down because there was a couple other West Coast IPAs I like more. So you can hear now, I already ruined that for you. Maybe there's West Coast IPAs on the top 10 list. We'll say bleep when it says top 10. But I had to move it down here to the shoutouts, just because there was beers I liked more. But that was also like phenomenal. I'd love to drink that again. World class banger. North Park just know their shit. Then another beer here is a Rauchbier, Spezials Rauchbier Lager. They're just Rauchbier brewed with only their smoked malt. Drinking it fresh at the brewery, having my renaissance of session beers and more classical beers, that was fucking awesome. Like, I've never had that juicy, like sometimes we've talked about juiciness in malt on this channel, where the malt is so vibrant and fresh and doughy. You got that there, like juicy, meaty malt, but in a more sessionable format than its counterpart at Schlenkerla. It's just a phenomenal beer, and it's like probably the best beer in my mind from Spezial. All the other beers there are really nice, but their lager is just to die for. Then also another Bamberg brewery. Now we got a few classical stuff, beers. Käsmann's Bamberger Herrenpils. When that's in its prime, that's also a world-class Pilsner. I thoroughly enjoyed that beer when I had it down in Bamberg this year. Over a little more than a year ago. I've had bottles throughout this year as well, trying it fairly fresh, shipped from down there, and it's just been wonderful. It's such a great Pilsner, and it's a beer I was like iffy about in the past, and I do not know why, because it's fucking banging. And then we got, I can't remember the last time we ever mentioned a Bock on this list, but Zentner's Münchenbacher Weihnachtsbock. I reviewed that early 24, fucking world-class hoppy buck. Really good stuff. I got to drink it straight from the cellars as well at Zentner from the tank when I visited Bamberg, which was really amazing. But that beer those guys make some of the best lagers around, and that is like full strength, rich, yet highly drinkable because of the hops and everything. Really good. Then we got something you also probably didn't think would be on the list, a Weizen, Andechser Weizenbock. That was fucking stonking. And I could even throw in their Weissbier Dunkel and their Hell, their light and pale, dark and pale Weizens. They make some really good Weizen at Andechser. And I had forgotten completely. And then I got to revisit them fresh, and I was like, whoa, what's going on here? I love this. So yeah, that was just really fun to try again. Just on point with the characteristics I like, with a lot of fruitiness, but also some spice. Not like super dry and spicy, but full, little sweet, not super sweet, just great balanced beers. Then we're moving on to some wild stuff. Metaphors Pebbles. That was just an amazing crusette. I had a magnum of it and I could have soloed that. That was a gift from Jiri and Andre, my subscriber. When I had my twins, I got that, and also was it a 4-pack, I think, of the Pilsner called something with Magic, which was also really nice. But that Pebbles, man, I have some Metaphor in the cellar to check out soon. Some wild stuff, but that was just such an amazing session beer. Then we got also some classic beer, but in a modern version. Rodenbach Evolved Grand Cru, aged for 10 years. 96 out of 100 I gave this one, I can see. So actually a world-class banger again. I can't remember what I gave the vintage ales back in the day, but I think it was like the 98s. They've been on the top 10s. And it was like walking down memory lane, drinking something like that again. Comparing it to the regular Grand Cru, it had more oaky, woody character, a lot of old woody character. But it was just wonderful. And I'm really stoked to have 2 bottles in the cellar, because I think it's something that they can also do well with some time, because we got some of this sour stuff, although this is not wild. Then we got the final runner-up beer, which is not a beer, but it needs to be mentioned. It needs to be mentioned because it was amazing. Malibu Bourbon Barrel Aged Stevensberry Cryo. And I already have something that can top that now, but I'm not going to mention that until you see it in the review coming this year. But yeah, that was one of the best meads I've ever had. Period. Malibu would just make I think they make the best meads in the world. Marius and his team out in Norway in Sandnes just kill it in the mead game. So many cool things with different berries, a lot of local stuff mainly. I think everything is pretty much local, but maybe besides when they've done like ginger ginger meads. And they've used like gin barrels. They also used lime. You don't grow that in in Norway, but they've used like a few fun ingredients and a lot of different barrels now and stuff, and it's just really nice. They also make beer under the Malibu's Mega Bear project. So that was the runner-ups. Now we go to the top 10s. And the top 10s this year is a very nice selection of beers that you need. All the beers I mentioned you need to drink, but the top 10, I'd say go out and get them now. Go hunt for them, trade for them, get them. A few of them you do not need to trade for. A few of them you need to trade for, but some of them you don't. So let's start here with number 10. Number 10 is Anspach and Hobday London Black. Probably the best dark nitro beer in Europe, period. It's a London porter. It's 4.4% alcohol. It's got everything you want in the style pretty much. In the video, for some reason, I gave it a 94, although I said it's like one of the best nitro beers I ever had, so I did an adjustment of of the grade off camera, which I sometimes do, especially also because I get to have the beer again. This is something you do with sessionable beers that are not super rare. You get to have them again, and you can be like, oh yeah, maybe it's a little bit better than I thought. But that's number 10. It's a beer I can't wait to drink again. I need to go to London. I need to drink it fresh at the source. I do. It's been way too long since I've been to England as well. So yeah, that's number 10. Go get some London Black from Anspach and Hobday. It's fairly easy to get. I think it has distribution in a lot of countries in Europe now. So go and find it. The next one, number 9, is a little bit harder to find. We got the first heavy hitter. We always have a lot of heavy hitters on this list. So this is Revolution's V.S.O.R Select. One of the best rye wines I've had in a very long time. 97 out of 100. Mind-blowing, intense rye characteristics on this one. Hand-selected barrels from Binny's liquor store. Maybe not like as thick and rich as like double V.S.O.R, but it didn't need to be. It was just really, 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 really high quality stuff, and I loved it. And number 8, Horus Super Gloop. It's up there. I saved a bottle of this one. This is one of the best pastry stouts I've had in a very, very long time. Insane stuff, overload of adjuncts. Maybe more adjunct than barrels, but fuck, it was good. It was a share. We were 3 people splitting a small bottle, and you definitely needed that because it was some rich stuff. But it's been a long time since I had some Horus on the channel. It was awesome to have it again because that was just such a phenomenal beer. Moving on to number 7, we got some Best Coast beers, but not from North Park. This is a collab brewed at Brujos with Shred Beer Co. Two amazing breweries, and I think both really know how to cut some West Coast IPAs these days. Brujos, I've been trying a lot of their West Coast because they've got distribution in Europe. I did a little bit of trading for some Shred early in the year just to get to try some, which was fucking fire. Needless to say, drink Brujos and Shred to the death, which was an awesome collab. West Coast IPA, triple dry hop, and here we have the hops: Mosaic, Crown, Nelson, and Waka. My kind of hop combo. That was so bright, pink, tropical, sticky, icky. I fucking loved it. I was so stoked that beer made it to Europe because I didn't trade for that. I bought it here, which was crazy. Amazing beer. Gave that a 98. 98. And we got number 6, another West Coast IPA, and the best West Coast IPA I had all year. One I hope I'll get to try again someday. From Ghost Town, Nose Goblin. Damn. Ghost Town. I got to try some Ghost Town this year. It's a brewery that I've been following for a while now. Got to trade some over. Also, I saved some of their cans. The absorption through world, cosmic absorption through whirlpools and disarray. Like the names, I love it. Such an amazing brewery. Metalheads, which I love as well. I'm a metalhead myself. And they just brew fucking killer West Coast beers. It's some of the best West Coast stuff you can get in the States, for sure. Such a nice brewery. Nose Goblin is like their most renowned beers. It's got quite a few medals behind its name. Most notably, World Beer Cup, and also Great American Beer Fest, I think. I think it's both. But a lot of medals, really, really big. I think it's like 9-point-some% West Coast double IPA. I can't remember the ABV exactly. I think it's like at least 100 IBUs. It's got Strata, Mosaic, and Nelson. It is such a fucking great beer. Like for this ABV, it just drinks insane. It was like, drinking that was almost a similar experience to like drinking Pliny the Younger, really. Although that's a little bit stronger. But it was in that territory where it was just like, fuck, this is so good. And number 5, we got a Danish beer. The only Danish beer on the list, actually. And this is from some colleagues here in Denmark, some good friends. Pleasanti Street and Øllebrødre, and this is their Cellar Red. Probably one of the best Danish beers I've ever had, and also, for sure, the best Danish beer I had last year. So they do Stellar, which is their big syrup wine. It's a barley wine where they take part of the grist or the mash, part of the batch, or maybe actually they brew a batch and they brew another batch. I can't remember exactly how the process was. And then part of it is reduced to a syrup that they add to the barley wine to make it rich, and just like that syrup will give some odd effect and intense flavors and stuff like that. They add that, and then it's aged in barrels, small format barrels. Now, what was different with Stellar Red was instead of the barley malt syrup, they did a port wine syrup and added. And it added the most insane levels of complexity. Like, holy shit, it was good. It was so vinous and like, just the oxidative notes of the port, it was smoking. It was insane. It rivals American Hype. There's American Hype barley wines I've had that are worse than that beer. And what's crazy, it's a small nano brewery. Like, they do not produce a lot of beer, but the level of quality is that high. But these days, you know, as homebrewers, with the equipment and everything you have available and the resources and the information, you can make world-class beer at home. So number 4, our good friends in Anchorage, Alaska. This is a tie because I couldn't decide. Anchorage, kill the king, stroke, suffer. One is a black barley wine, other one is a stout and barley wine blend, both with coconut. Massive coconut characters and massive barrel flavors. I think these were a blend of double oaked and triple oaked beers and stuff like that. Some of the best barrel aged beer I've had this year. Holy fuck! And these were sold in Europe. And we have more Anchorage now that was released in Europe. I can't wait to crack. Sitting talking about it now. It's got to be one of my all-time favorite breweries, Anchorage. They constantly deliver like the best barrel-aged beer experiences. I'm never disappointed in the beers. And yes, there's probably some smaller breweries that make more hyped and bitter beers and whatnot that's impossible to get. Anchorage was impossible to get at one point too, but for my money, it's just one of the best breweries around. It's like I've always I've wanted to see Alaska because of nature, but it's never been like bucket list. But I almost could move it into the bucket list now because of Anchorage Brewing, so I can also tick that and visit the brewery. That's how big a brewery it is for me. So that's number 4. And number 3, getting into the home stretch here, Omnipollo and the Vale's Church Amun-Ra Solera Stout. Probably the best barrel-aged beer, at least barrel-aged stout, I've had from Europe. Wow, that was crazy. It was a Solera processed barrel-aged beer in which they added barrel-aged beer from the Vale that was blended into barrel-aged beer from Omnipollo, from the church. So it's aged in a lot of different barrels. It was a 50-50 proportion blend of beer brewed in the States and beer brewed in Sweden. And it was Buffalo Trace Bourbon, Laird's Apple Brandy barrels, Bliss Maple Syrup barrels, and it was finished on toasted and raw coconut and Ugandan no beans. That beer was fucking nuts. That just showed the goals they have at Omnipollo at the church and the levels they want to reach with these beers. They just want to go ham. So that's number 3. Just such a wonderful beer, and I still think you can find it some places online, and you need to. That beer needs to be drunk now when it's just like popping and full of expression and barrel character. It's a beer I really want to drink again myself. It was just such an amazing beer, especially for the first, I think, proper release of barrel-aged beer from the church. So number 2, we got another heavy hitter. This one's from the States. This is a side project, BBT Van Winkle 2023. BBT has always been one of my all-time favorite barrel-aged stouts. The 19 is the first one I had, and it's been the best I've had. And that one was then tied by the 23 Van Winkle version, because that was insane. The special thing about this is like the first single thread kind of BBT, where they use these Van Winkle barrels. You probably heard of Pappy Van Winkle bourbon, super hype bourbon. Well, the 10-year bourbon is called Old Rip Van Winkle. They got a hold of those barrels and used that for a BBT variety, which I drank with my dad, and he fucking loved this as well. It blew his mind. And I've been lucky enough to drink this beer twice, because I got a bottle on Beer Dome, which is insane. This was sold in Europe, that I reviewed with my dad. And I had traded for a bottle as well that I got sent back home, and I got to share with the Bad Seed guys. So I got to drink it twice this year, which is just insane, because that was just such a mind-boggling stout. And that's one of those beers you drink and you get, as a brewer, really inspired, and you're like, fuck, we need to get to this level somehow. I don't care what it takes, I want to go there. As with number 3, this was 100. The top 3 are beers that got 100 on the scale. So yeah, just wonderful stuff. And here we go. Number 1, the best beer I had in 24. I need a drink before this, just to hold the tension. It's a beer I could drink all day. It's none other than Schlenkerla Helles Lagerbier Unfiltered Edition. I think some people are gonna be a bit like, what? How could you put that above BBT, Church Amun-Ra, Anchorage Kill the King, Nose Goblin, all these insanely hyped beers? It's just a unfiltered, smoky Helles Lager from Germany. Because that beer is a desert island beer for me. And that beer I drank maybe 12 times last year. And every time I was like, yep, this is it. Don't want to change that. I also drank it really fresh. I got it at release. I can't wait for it to be released soon here in is it early spring? Got it really fresh. Drank it really fresh. It was not, maybe the oldest I drank it was like 3, maybe 4 months. It was not like I sat on, like I know some people drank it like at 7, 8 months, maybe 10 months, and they're like, it's not as great as I hear people say, because it's not fresh. Lagers are lagered for you. They need to be drunk really fresh for the best experiences, just like IPAs. And that beer is just one of the best beers I had this year. It's the best batch of the beer as well. I'm sure they've done a few batches, but at least the batch I had was the best batch I've had of that beer. There's not a single thing in that I would change. It was the perfect marriage of complexities and high drinkability. Soft complexity, high drinkability, which is something I've really been advocating this year. Like, there was just so much going on, but it was not too much. It was still a beer you could just kick back, cheers, and enjoy the sunset. Like, that speaks heaps to the quality of this beer. It's such an amazing historic brewery. The Brauerei Heller that makes the Schlenkerla beers, like, for me, that was just magic. And I think we need to be better at giving credit where credit's due. A lot of people who grade, they like, especially when it's food and drink, they really like to hold back and not give high grades. And especially in beer, people like to knock things for what they are. It's like, but this is just a lager. You don't sit at a Michelin star restaurant and eat like the best gazpacho in the world. You're like, but this is just fucking gazpacho. It's like, you don't do that. Well, some people probably do it. I don't know why I said gazpacho. That's a weird fucking example. But it's like, why is the beer world like this? Why do people judge things for what they are unfairly? Like, this is just that. Like, it nails what it's trying to be, and it's amazing. Of course, I know personal preference is a big thing, but I think people should be a bit more forgiving with this stuff and maybe try and look, okay, maybe it's just because I don't like it. Then I shouldn't rate it, actually. I think that's one of the things that with craft beer has been interesting. Like, I think I've been like that myself. I've held back all classic stuff, all sessionable stuff. Can't grade it super high because of what it is. It's like, oh yeah, but it's not as good as a big barrel aged stout. Depends on the setting, depends on the mood. Like, I would love to drink those barrel aged beers again on this list. But I would also fucking love to drink a shit ton of Schlenkerla's unfiltered Lagerbier again. Like, that beer was something you can just go back to all the time. Think of teachers in school. If you have a paper from a student, they go and do their presentation and they fucking nail it. And you're like, yeah, but I'm not gonna give them an A+ because they could maybe be slightly better. So I'm gonna give them a B. Like, you don't fucking do that. So like, if you think it's great for what it is, perfect marks. Is there any flaws? No. Is it the best of the best in its category? Give it the perfect mark. I've really started to think more of that, or maybe be a little nitpicky about it then give it like super high 90s, whatever. But if you have a thought like, I don't think this can get better than this, then maybe you should just grade it high. Wow, we're ending in number one really aggressively here. But I just want to give this like some proper shout out. And I think it's maybe a bit controversial to put this beer on number one. But like, I almost knew this already when I drank it earlier this year. This is going to be the best lager I drink this year. I'm not sure there's going to be anything that tops this. And I want this on the top 10. Let's see if it can make it for number one. And it made it to number one because it's also a beer that I've kept thinking about. It's a beer I keep thinking about being like, wow, I really want to revisit that again. A lot of these beers I'd love to revisit again, but maybe not as much as the unfiltered Schlenkerla Helles Lager. But I'm also such an advocate for lagers, so that's also maybe part of it. I think that some people have the ideas, but also because it's industry people, we are more succumb to more simpler beers because we brew a lot of crazy stuff. And I think that has some merit, but it also because we can really appreciate the craftsmanship that it takes to make these beers. So number one in 24 is Schlenkerla's Unfiltered Helles Lagerbier. Amazing stuff. Yeah, what a year. Great beers all around. A lot of walks down memory lane, and we're going to have more of that as well because there's a lot of classics I want to revisit, but we also got some really cool stuff. We got the age stuff coming. We hopefully will actually have a couple. I'm planning on trying to do an on-the-road video very soon in the new year in Sweden. We'll see about that very, very soon. And yeah, all other kinds of content, and also just other fun stuff with Bad Seed. We should do more Bad Seed videos once in a while. I think it's been fun to talk about what I do because I think you guys can sometimes feel that I'm passionate about it. So that's it for the top 10 and the round up to 24. Hope you guys enjoyed 24. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's very long. I got a lot of editing to do in this one, but we'll make it work. And thanks a ton for watching. Thanks a ton for tuning in to 15 years of the Master of Hoppets. And I'm going to say cheers here in some banging West Coast IPA from Omnipollo and North Park. And say cheers to you guys. And see you in 2025 for more content on the Master of Hoppets. Cheerio.